Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Silicon Oasis Spotlight. I'm excited to have with me here today.
Hey, my name's Ryan Moorehouse, and I'm the CTO of Ruck.
Let's go. Ryan, you and I have a bit of similar journeys in the fact that, for example, 4 years ago, I was not involved in tech, right? It was November of 21, the first time I ever even learned about the world of tech, which means I kind of lied on my resume to get a tech PR job. But tell us about how you got involved in tech, a little bit of your background.
Yeah, so I got interested in technology really early on. So I played a lot of video games growing up.
Let's go.
And my favorite was StarCraft, and so I always wanted to build like StarCraft growing up.
Age of Empires.
Yeah. So that was kind of like my journey into it. My dad was always had like different computers and things around like that, and so I just was familiar with it early on from an early age, and got to college, did a computer science degree. Nice. And from there, I got a job in technology. I was a consultant for about 10 years. My first job was really cool. It was a small agency in Chicago. We were about 800 people across the U.S. in a few cities.
Sounds like a lot to me.
Yeah.
Small and 800.
Well, so 2 years into that journey, we got bought by Accenture. So, we go from 800 to 300,000 worldwide.
That makes sense. Yeah. The scale, I get it now.
Yeah, no, totally. So that was kind of like my introduction into technology. That journey of consulting, I kind of got exposure with a lot of things. All sorts of different types of programming, architecture, kind of like everything you would need to do to build software and build a company. And that's kind of how I got into things.
That's interesting. The only experience I had before that was 2 middle school classes. And like back when you could change the colors on an HTML page. Yeah. That's probably the only exposure I had up until then. But going from a tech pipeline, it sounded like you worked in not startups before, though.
Right, totally. No, enterprise, all enterprise.
There we go.
Part of my career.
That's the word. So how was the transition from enterprise to startups? Did you like it? Was it tough?
I found it, a little tough, maybe. It's a mindset. It's a mindset shift, totally. Because when you're in an enterprise environment, you're working for these companies that have very high demands, especially if you're working with consumer-facing companies. They like expect perfection, and so a lot of what we were doing was building these solutions that were like the final solutions, scalable solutions, and going into a startup, it kind of is the opposite. It's just like let's get the quickest thing out there that we can, and it's going to be dirty, it's going to be broken,
it's uncomfy, right?
But
for a lot of...
the end goal is different, right? The end goal in enterprise is try to sell something. Yeah. The end goal in a startup, especially an early stage one that I joined, after all of that, the goal is to learn. Yeah. And it's to build something so you can get feedback, so that you can build the next thing, so you can get more feedback, and then just keep that cycle going. And that was the mindset that I had to learn. I didn't have that in me. I had the software development kind of stuff in me. I knew how to build. I knew how to lead a team. I knew how to, all that stuff. But it was that journey of learning that I had to learn.
Would you say that was the toughest part from the transition? The reason I ask, right, is I see a lot of people, it's a very common pipeline in startup worlds and SF and NYC to go from consulting, banking, right into startups, right? A lot of people save up their money and then they usually use that to fuel their startup ambitions. But I never hear them talk about, I guess, the culture differences and what the hardest part was about that shift. Would you say having that type of learning structure or changing the learning structure was the hardest part, or you tell me, right?
Yeah, that probably was the hardest part. Like going in after, after Accenture and after my consulting kind of jobs that I was doing, I co-founded my company. And so I had no experience with startups. I was like, well, this is cool. Let's just build some software to help my friend go run his company. But I didn't really know what that meant. Yeah. And you get into it, especially as a founder, founder-led sales is such a big thing, crucial step to those early stage companies. And so I had to go out and learn sales. I had to go out and learn what it meant to market. I had to go out and learn what it meant to just talk to a customer. Yeah. You don't do that as a software developer. You just don't.
Yeah.
Usually that stuff's done by a customer success team or your design team or someone else.
You hand it off.
Yeah. Or some of these companies had entire divisions in their organization dedicated just to talking to customers. They would collect that information and then give it to the rest of the company. Yeah. But now as a founder, I'm the one having to go out and do that myself. So it's like, okay, well, what's the process? What things am I supposed to ask them? Yeah. And then when I get that information, how do I know what information is actually relevant? So I love this book called The Mom Test.
Never heard of it. So intrigued.
Yeah. So the idea is your mom's going to lie to you. Hey, Mom, I have this idea for, a startup, for a business, for this or that. Yeah. Your mom's just going to be like, cool, I love it. Go do it. She's your mom. She's going to support you. Right? Yeah. So same thing with the customer. It's like, you ask a customer, hey, is this feature a great idea? Yeah. Well, 9 times out of 10, the customer, if it's anything relevant to them, they're just going to be like, yeah, it's a great idea. Yeah. You should go build it. But is it actually going to move the needle for anything? Is it going to help you sell that your thing to them? Is it going to help them solve any of their problems? And those are all the things I had to learn. That
reminds me of I'm totally going to butcher this saying, but essentially when talking about sales, they compared it to selling horses, where you don't ask the customer, do you want a faster horse? Because the answer is, it's always yes. It's what do you wish was easier about taking care of this horse? Yes. And, it goes to the bathroom too much. Its diet's because all of that leads to a faster horse at the end of the day if you're trying to race it. But I've never heard it as the mom. I think that one, as someone with 2 kids, right? A 5-year-old and a 3-month-old. Yeah, everything my 5-year-old does is fantastic. Right? I am his number 1 fan for everything. So I'm going to use that one probably moving forward. Yeah. Interestingly enough, I have never worked in a team bigger than like 32 people. And it was funny because the dream growing up was, work in a giant Manhattan skyscraper with thousands of employees. It's just, I guess, the life never put me on a path to do that. So thanks for sharing what it was like from, small consulting, 300,000 group, niching it down. And you mentioned being the co-founder of a startup, but now you're at a different one. Right. Cool. So what is it that you're building right now, and how did you get to here?
Yeah. So I, for the last 4 or 5 years before this, I was working on a startup that, me and 2 other co-founders had put together. Yeah. It was a sports-based platform for adult recreational sports. We were all soccer guys growing up. We knew each other from Chicago. It was awesome. And it just got to a point where I really loved what we were doing, but working remote kind of sucked. Yeah. And I'd been working remote for over 10 years.
But you thought this sucked back in what year?
It has its pluses and its minuses. If I'm being honest, I probably hated remote working from like the start.
Oh, really? Okay. But when were you sitting it, I guess? What year was that?
Yeah, it was probably like 2024-ish. Yeah.
Okay, nice.
Yeah. The flexibility is great. Like, you can't complain there. But there's something to be said about working with people in person. Yeah. And I got to a point where I was just really craving that. And I got to a point where I started networking with a lot of the local community here in Phoenix. Mm-hmm. Some of it was for fundraising for my company. Some of it was just personal reasons. Some of it was because there's, a lot of really cool events that are going on now. Yeah. And so I was like, cool, like let's see what's around. And, back in the fall of last year, I went to an event and bumped into a guy named Lee. Didn't know him at the time. Yeah. We just started shooting the shit, and it was a really great conversation, and we hit it off really well, and just kind of kept in touch over the next couple of months. And one thing led to another. They were closing their funding round, and they needed a technology guy.
Oh, let's go.
And so I was like, okay, cool.
You need one for a tech startup, right?
Yeah.
I hear these days.
Yeah. And so, the reason I ultimately jumped onto Ruck and what we're doing here, it's a couple of things. The first major one is just Lee and who he is. Yeah. He's just such an interesting character. Yeah. But we're talking about mindsets, and he understands business. He understands like what it means to actually grind and build a company from the ground up. He's been in a couple environments where he's seen that, he's done it, he's failed at it, and he's learned a lot. Mm-hmm. And so, that first conversation, I could see that everything clicked. Yeah. And we were aligned in just so much from that first conversation. And then a couple months later, we got together for coffee. We were like sort of talking about like, okay, well, I need a head of technology, like, are you available? Like, what can we do? Yeah. And he just wanted to like show me more of what they were doing. So at one point, we should go to a coffee shop in Scottsdale by me, and he pulls up his laptop and he shows me this little demo of something that he was building. So the CEO vibe coding his way to a solution. Oh, totally, totally, totally. Oh my god, I love it. And so he was showing me this, and I'm like, wow, dude. And so it's like this little vibe coded solution, but it was just like it was talking out to an AI. It was taking that information that we were collecting. It was basically building like an order and then feeding that back to us. And then from there, we could take that information and actually go and purchase everything and complete this transaction. Got it. And it was just such a cool little piece of technology. It sounds really simple, like while I'm describing it right now, but the way we want something like that to integrate into the rest of the system that we were building, I just thought it was like a fantastic little idea. And then to see like Lee's initiative to go out and build that and do it and like be the one who's like, holding up like the baton and saying this is where we're going and giving everybody the marching orders. Like there's just so much about his leadership that I was drawn to, and got to meet a lot of the team in Utah when I went up to Utah Tech Week. Nice. So I still wasn't actually fully on board yet. We were still kind of just talking, but I just wanted to go up there to.
You were his plus one.
Yeah, kind of. So I got to meet a lot of the team up in Salt Lake, and it was just more of the same people. Yeah. So our Lee's co-founder, same mentality. Like let's build something small. Let's build it quick. Let's get feedback. And like let's learn and grow. But there's also this sense of community, of like togetherness, team collaboration, empathy. Like Sean's here in town right now. The other day we just did a breathwork class. Nice. In our office. Oh, cool. Yeah. So it was like 8 dudes on the floor just like breathing. But it was great. And like that's the kind of culture and team that we're trying to build at Ruck. And so I could see that. And so I'm like, okay, you guys have a fantastic team, a fantastic culture. You guys are building this like really cool platform of, software. And maybe that's what people don't really realize just yet. Is like, we say we're a last mile delivery service company, and we are. Like that's how we started, right? Yeah. Lee and Sean started, doing the deliveries in Utah, like themselves. Right. Yeah. And like they proved out the business concept manually, doing all these orders, calling people and doing everything themselves before they ever wrote a line of code.
Yeah, I love when I can see startups at their inception stage like that. So the co-founder of Instacart ended up investing at the startup I work at, Inked Greetings, but he was telling us when Instacart was starting out, he would go inside grocery store. It wasn't legal, by the way. Yeah. Walk inside grocery stores, pick up an apple, take a picture, put it back, move 2 inches, pick up the green apple, an entire grocery store. I remember when we were building, we have 100 kiosks, gifting technology machines in the field now, or ink tanks. And my COO and I put the printer inside, put the sticker, 100 of those bad boys, just sending them out on the field. We finally offloaded that to a warehouse team, which is fantastic. But at the early, I love when stories start like that, when the founding team just gets in the dirt and says, if I don't prove this out, no one else is going to do it. No one's going to do it for me, right?
Yeah, Lee's thing is we're not going to build anything until we've done it 10,000 times.
Yeah.
We're not going to automate anything until we've done it 10,000 times. My kind of personal philosophy on the development side is we're not going to build a feature until we've talked to 100 customers. And we know that that's a validated solution that's going to solve a problem.
Nice. Yeah. I have a question on that. That sounds like a great way to go about it. How fast can you get that customer feedback? Is there a thing you guys do to get it faster? Or I'd like to learn just from a personal level building.
That's what I'm trying to figure out too.
Nice. Okay.
So honestly, kind of funny enough, I was at a dinner, a startup startup culture kind of team dinner here and on Tuesday, and met a co-founder who's building a customer success tool. Okay. So we're talking to him. I just had coffee again with him this morning. So nice. we're talking to them. Maybe we can kind of do some kind of partnership between them and us, where we're sort of using their solution for some of that kind of customer discovery.
Can you share?
His name's Zach. It's called Steerco.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, he just started it a few months ago. It's wild how much they've built in such a short time.
Nice.
Yeah, and their tool is really, really cool. So like there's something like that. Yeah, me and Sean, like, because we're kind of sort of running the customer success team together. It's more in his wheelhouse, but kind of what he does translates into the product team, and I'm leading the product team and the technology team. So we work really closely together to make sure that, you know, all this information that we're collecting, the entire team has access to it, so that, you know, it gives everybody context. They know why we're building the things that we're building.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we're this is one of the things that we're really trying to figure out is like, and this is just one of these things that we're trying to figure out. Like we have all sorts of processes that we're trying to like, how can we do this better? How can we do this faster? And so, yeah, I think AI tools are awesome. So we're trying to figure out like, is there a way we can collect conversations and productize that information using AI so that we can give it back to our team? You know, little things like that. But again, right now, a lot of everything that we're doing is just manual. So we've got a little customer success team that's going out and doing phone calls and going to do visits with the actual vendors that are our customers.
Yeah.
Every day. And so we're getting that feedback in every day. And it's just a matter of like, okay, well, how can we do more of that?
Dude, I love how you guys are building, by the way. It's very, not that we're doing it the right way exactly as well, but it sounds similar to how we're building at Inked. Like when we merchandise at stores, we go ourselves. I don't know if you saw it, but on the internet, we ordered this giant ink blob. It was like a mascot, and we went out on a Saturday 2 weeks ago, so it's pretty recent. It was a CEO and then the other co-founder inside the blob, and I was just, you know, kind of pulling people in. But personally, I think that's one of the best ways to build. When you're on the ground, when you're in the dirt, you'll hear what your customers really hate about your product, right?
I love that you said dirt, by the way.
Yeah, quite literally in Arizona. But when you're in the dirt, they will tell you. I remember we asked one person as he was walking by. We were like, hey, use it. It was a free Mother's Day card. He got one. He's like, thanks. And we're like, hey, would you use it again? He's like, if I like the card. He just walked away. Now, like, maybe 4,000, 5,000 plus. No, more. 10,000 plus people have used our product. And we're always like, yeah, they'll love it. And just one person 2 weeks ago was like, if I like the next card. I was like, that's crazy. So it's interesting to hear because they'll tell you, hey, this is confusing. There's just really no better way to get that customer feedback.
Absolutely.
Which I think a lot of Silicon Valley, New York startups overlook because they just throw an AI agent in the way now. And they're like, yeah, that's good enough. And I'm like, I personally, I don't think that's good enough. But, you know, time will tell. Awesome that you guys are building that way.
Yeah, no, totally. We were doing a lot of that at Banter too. You know, we were talking to customers every day, and that's, you know, really where I kind of learned a lot of it to start. We really sucked at sales to start, and it was that, again, that learning process. So we would go in, we would try to do demos, and it would just be like a demo of our product, and it wouldn't hit. Like their customers would be like, well, I need this feature, and that's all they would think about. So after like 5 of these demos, I'm like, okay, everybody keeps saying the same thing. They need this one feature, but that one feature is always different.
So what was the?
And then it's like, okay,
all the time. What was the solution?
We changed how we talked to the customers.
Okay.
We started asking them more questions and like just really trying to understand who they were and like what is the biggest pain of running a soccer company.
Yeah.
And we just changed that whole customer discovery process and like stopped doing demos.
Yeah. Again, love that you're sharing the nitty gritty. I always see through SEO Google results, hey, what happens when you listen too much to your customers? What happens when you transition from big corps to startups? But no one actually talks about the solutions at the end of the day. Yeah. So it sounds like you just stopped doing the demos.
Stopped doing the demos there, yeah.
And then
started doing more customer discovery and asking more questions and just be like, hey, we're here. We used to do this. You know, we're trying to build this, for you and other people in the community. Like, what are your biggest problems, and how can we help you solve those? Yeah. And once we started asking that question, we started getting way better feedback.
Nice. Well, for anyone listening, right? If you're stuck in that loop, there's a solution. Love it, man. Yeah. So about Ruck. What are people not getting about it? Why now? What made you go, I love soccer too? Have you worked in construction before? Have you worked in?
Not. It's a funny question.
So what made you go from something you loved to something that maybe you didn't like?
I love doing things with my hands. So I used to like fix up my old Jeep.
Nice.
At one point I was like renovating an RV for a little bit.
Cool.
So yeah, I love building things, physically, software, my personally myself, like just, I love building things.
Yeah.
And so, why Ruck? Why now? Honestly, it's the construction industry.
Yeah.
One, it's like a super ignored industry right now, and two, it's just like a bunch of old people who use paper and pen to run their entire business.
Yeah. So, I mean, for reference, if you didn't know this about me, Ryan, I actually grew up in this home. It's not a studio. It's like my parents' house that I just come to and record. But my father owns a flooring installation company. He has done so for the past...
a company that might be able to help service them.
There we go. I mean, the reason I'm saying is that he's been doing it for 30 years. And I worked with him all throughout my undergrad. I have the permanent skin damage to show for it. My neck too here, just different shades. And I agree. All of construction industry, it's a very closed off niche circle that functions through been there, done that folk who just kind of trust each other. So I've always thought, having spent 6 years in it, selling in it sounds tough.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's a lot of relationship building. It's a lot of it's a very old school kind of industry, and it's a lot of like relationship building.
Yeah.
And I think that's, again, where Lee and Sean shine. Like, they are, customer success people at their heart. They understand how to talk to people, and they know their pains, and again, they just want to help them. We want to build software that helps these people run their businesses better.
That's something that I like about startups in general. There are so many examples of people who have never worked in the industries. I know Lee has some background actually, but for example, I never sold in retail. Never thought I'd work for selling greeting cards, but I'm pretty dang good at merchandising our product that actually puts the numbers on the board. And there's so many examples. I just read the CEO of Uber, who, I don't know if you've seen that story before, but it was someone who owned Uber, right? They had started it or whatever, and they didn't really want to run it. And they said, hey, I'm looking for a CEO. Some dude just cold tweeted him. And he's like, hey, email me. Good idea. And now he's like a, multi-billionaire because he helped run it since the beginning. But way too many examples in tech where if you're good at talking to people, if you really just love building, you can succeed in it, right? I mean, you're an example of that. Lee's a great example of that. And I would say, my co-founders, the co-founders that I work for, really great examples of that. None of them ever really worked in what we do, but if you love building and you want to succeed and you'll outwork anyone else, you have a good shot. That's just my personal take.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off. Just good
no,
example.
that's a great point. Yeah, honestly, I think if you grind it out, you have a good idea, you know how to talk to people, and you want to put in the work, 9 times out of 10, you're going to be successful.
Yeah. That's cool to see. Again, you guys kind of doing that at the ground level. And is there a reason Lee chose construction to begin with? What was because, you're always pulled to something in startups, right? It doesn't matter kind of what. Something always itches the back of your brain, whatever you want to call it. And you ended up in construction, right?
Yeah. I'll leave the full story to him, but I think the summary of it is that, he had a few friends in construction, and they were asking him to do deliveries, just pick up some stuff.
Yeah.
So he would, and then he would go pick it up, and he'd talk to the people there, hey, how do you run your business? Do you have any problems? Do you need deliveries?
Yeah.
And once he started talking to them and built that little relationship, they're like, yeah, I got deliveries all the time. Like, if you have a service, I'll give you a contact if I need any help.
Yeah.
And it kind of just started organically like that.
That seems so simple, but such a natural way to do that. And how big is the team now at Ruck?
We're just under 15 people across Salt Lake and Phoenix.
I would say.
Super small.
Nice. Seems very tight knit then.
Yeah. So we're super small, but then we've got kind of people spread out across a number of different teams. Because again, we're doing everything pretty manually right now. So we've got our development team, we've got our sales team, we've got our customer success team, we've got a dispatch team, we've got kind of like a logistics and a finance team. So we've kind of split everything up a little bit to kind of help manage all the different pieces. Because what we are trying to do is a very big thing.
Knowing that the construction industry is somewhat slow in adopting technology, how have you found that selling process to be? What has been the thing that has unlocked people to say, no tech, to, of course I need Ruck?
Well, our big thing right now still, because a lot of our software isn't in a mature place right now. So a lot of what we're doing is the relationship building stuff right now. We're trying to
down the hall, man.
Yeah, no, seriously, let's go. Let's go. Florian's one of our biggest customers right now.
I imagine, yeah.
And if your dad doesn't have a website, we turn on websites for them.
Okay, yeah. Nice.
Not pitching here, but
No, for sure.
So Yeah, a lot of what we're doing right now is offering our services for delivery and making sure that we have excellent customer service while we're delivering those materials. And if you go look at our testimonials, I think it kind of speaks for itself on what we're doing on that side. So, the next part of it is the sales enablement and software stuff. And so that's ultimately kind of like where I'm coming in. I'm like, cool, what's all this awesome software that we can build to now streamline their business processes and help them earn more money, help them deliver, better, customer solutions on their own end. Yeah. So that the entire ecosystem of construction is, being handled better.
Yeah. Is there a certain time that you guys foresee saturating markets? For example, right now you're in Utah, Arizona, and I think I saw, is it New Mexico on your website, or not so much?
New Mexico, no, not so much just yet.
Okay.
That's kind of what we're trying to figure out right now.
Nice.
Is like, what are the best markets that we should try to go after next?
Okay.
So we're still kind of figuring out a little bit of that. And even some of that is being driven by our vendors, because we work with some national or like regional, kind of distributors. And so, those vendors have, offices in other locations, other cities, other metro areas. And so they're like, hey, we really like your service. Have you thought about coming out here? And so it's cool. It's like, awesome. I love that you're thinking about us. We're awesome. But then we're also like, shit, now we got to go activate this whole new market. And it's like a whole 3-step process that we kind of got. And so we want to be really smart and strategic about where we go. Yeah. Because, we are a 3-sided marketplace, and trying to balance those market forces is really difficult. Yep. And so we don't want to get stretched too far one way or the other and then not be able to support the services that we do offer. So
that makes sense.
Yeah, we're really trying to identify those areas and have a good strategic plan for expansion in the next year or two.
I would ask why Arizona, but it sounds like it's an obvious very construction heavy state.
Very construction, the weather, and just the startup culture here. It's growing. There's a lot of interest in bringing technology companies to Arizona. And so, Lee's from here as well. So it was just a little bit of a homecoming from him. Yeah, I think he's from here, and he went to BYU for his undergrad and his law school. Nice. And so this is just, he started the company up in Salt Lake, but it was just like a little bit of a homecoming to bring the company down here. And to bring it down here again at a time where, there's a lot of interest in growing the startup community here. So I think it was a lot of that.
That's awesome to hear. I didn't get involved locally until about 2023, I would say. And by then I was about 2 years into tech. But I love how much it's grown since then, right? What started as just little niche groups have now just turned into these giant compared to Arizona, guys. I know one skyscraper in New York kind of dwarfs our.
Probably laughing at us.
It used to be a lot. If you think it's small now, it used to be tiny compared. So it's really cool to see not just the fact that companies are building here, but the fact that companies like Ruck are building here. And when I say that, I mean the culture. You explained a little bit, which was an obsessive founder, has been there and failed more times than others. My CEO likes to say that. He likes to say, hey, I bet you I failed more than you have. Yeah. Love that. Like, that's so cool to hear. Yeah. Yeah, and we need more of that. It's not just, hey, I have a dream, let me start it. I bring such an intense culture that's obsessive, and not just obsessive, it's contagious. Yeah. Like when I met my co-founders at Inked, when I had dinner with them before I signed on, you could tell they were just obsessed about making a $1 billion company, right? Like, I think Inked is an easy next $1 billion company. People will laugh, but like, the job of a VC is to find a unicorn at the early stage. I don't know why no one else talks like that. I think we should be talking in terms of like, I hope Ruck's, then, like side by side we can grow. And then Arizona's got 2 easy unicorns on the map. But I love that companies like Ruck come here and help build community. I've seen you, Ryan, be at community events, be a mentor at community events. You're one of our ambassadors, like at the Silicon Oasis. So I've seen Lee, he had a LinkedIn post 2 days ago where he said, hey, he's like, hey, I'm going to bring investors, comment. So I commented several of our ambassadors of the Silicon Oasis network, people that, again, I feel that shouldn't go unnoticed. So it's cool, again, not because they bring a culture, they bring an entire ecosystem. Companies like Ruck, builders like, Lee, Andrew Eckmark, and a couple of others. So thanks for building here.
It's the network. It's the desire to connect. It's the desire to give back. It's a lot of things all kind of wrapped up in one, and that's ultimately why I joined Ruck and why I'm trying to help out more in the Phoenix startup community. It's just, how can we do this on a bigger scale?
Yeah. How can you share a bit? Can you brag about yourself for a little bit on how you've helped the AZ tech ecosystem? Because we need to hear that stuff, man.
I don't like talking about myself too much. But,
I know. I'm sorry.
I'll plug the organizations in that I'm getting connected to, because I think that's more important.
For sure.
And so I was one of those founders that was heads down founders mode, for 4 years. Like at Banter, we had a small team, and I was just kind of like doing everything a little bit. And so it was only summer of last year where I really started getting plugged into the scene here, and really networking with other founders and other builders and all these organizations that are starting to come online. And so the first one that stuck out to me was Arizona Nerd Network and Don Fosh. It's just such a cool group. Yeah. So we get together every the first Saturday of every month, and it's just a networking event. We just come out, it's just builders, software, engineers, developers, and students, and we just come, hang out, eat pizza, maybe have like a little talk, maybe have like a little demo, and just meeting other developers in a very casual environment. That's Don's goal, is to just bring all the builders together in one house.
Yeah, I love that. And he repeats it over and over. So if every time I hear of an engineer, I'm like, go that way. Yeah, go that way. Go to Don. So.
Yeah, and that's the kind of thing that we need more of, is just more opportunities for software developers, builders to just bump elbows and meet people in that kind of casual environment where there's no expectations. So I love that one a lot. And last weekend I got to help out with our first hackathon, which was really cool. It was sponsored by Microsoft. It was really neat event. So the goal of it was to build multi-agent applications using Microsoft services, and in 6 hours it was wild what some of the teams built.
That's crazy.
So super excited. And then we had, I think, 50 people sign up. There's a small wait list. We got a handful of them in. I think the total was like closer to like 75 people for this first event. Yeah. Next spring, Don and the Nerd Network, they want to do it bigger. So the goal is 500 people next spring.
Oh, cool. A year from now, then.
Yep.
Make sure to rally the
a lot of planning
and get people over there.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. So that's a really cool group. I like it a lot. I try to go every month and meet people in the network there. It's just a great group of people. Then recently I've been trying to get plugged in with the Freeway,
nice.
Startup. Daniela is an awesome person, awesome founder.
She's got the tech talent tomorrow.
Yeah, talent tomorrow. So, I'll be there doing office hours on the engineering side. So, just hosting a little session. Yeah, giving back.
Yeah, thank you.
So it's gonna be cool. For me, I almost see it more as a learning experience for myself.
Yeah.
Because now I get to talk to people who have these like really cool ideas or have these like little problems, and we get to workshop it together. So I feel like they're learning just as much from me as I am from them, and it's just a really cool experience. So that's ultimately like really why I do like giving back and doing these things, because I get to learn more. It's a little bit selfish.
I always like to say that I love doing the Silicon Oasis Spotlight, because I get to hear about things I would never otherwise hear. Right. Like if I'm home, I'm spending time with my kids, I'm watching a Netflix show with my wife. I can promise you I'm not learning about construction, last mile delivery. So thank you so much for being here. I agree when I'm like, it's a little selfish too, because I love hearing how other builders build. Yeah. So
another community that I'm trying to get plugged into is Phoenix Forward.
Yeah, awesome,
so
guys.
Love Clayt at Mask and Greg Scoresby, and Becky's kind of setting up a lot of cool programming there. Yeah. So I was at their ambassador kickoff on Tuesday and trying to get plugged in more there. They're trying to turn on a lot of educational stuff, which I think is fantastic, because I had this thing, I kind of called it out while I was there, but I was talking to a GP at the hackathon, and he was like, pre-seed funds and seed funds are going away. Yeah. And I kind of agree, because as technology gets cheaper and cheaper to build, it's not the technology that becomes the bottleneck, it's the learning, it's talking to your customers, it's validating these ideas. It's, getting whatever MVP out there as quickly as you can to get that feedback and then start iterating on your idea faster. And as that becomes cheaper and cheaper to do, you don't need these like $1 million seed funds anymore.
Yeah.
To start a company. You just need the educational piece. You just need to know what things I need to go ask my customers.
Yes.
So that I know what to build.
Agreed.
I need to know how to do sales and marketing now. I need to know how to do finance because I've never done finance as a tech person. So this is why I love what Phoenix Forward is doing, because like if we can start teaching people how to actually build companies in the right way, in a sustainable way, in a profitable way, then it's not the money that becomes the bottleneck. It just becomes your imagination.
Yeah. When Silicon Oasis used to be called Venturon, I would do workshops as well, and love that Clate's doing that. It's just, we can't do everything, and we're like, look, if you're good at something, just do that, and we'll love to spotlight you. That's kind of how we're approaching things now. But as someone who was not in startups 4 years ago, or even tech 4 years ago, there's an etiquette to it. There's this weird dance that in the way that you sell to customers and the way that you talk to VCs. And it's not just talking to VCs for the sake of getting money, although that's kind of the end goal most of the time. It's talking to them in a way that makes them want to help you, no strings attached. Makes them want to go, oh, you should talk to my ex-co-founder over here at this company we used to build. Because there's a way to kind of navigate that. And I would say Arizona is pretty dang far behind when it comes to stuff like that. So stoked that Clayton Mass, the Phoenix Forward team, honestly, all of these kind of pillars, right, are doing their part to just push everyone forward at the same time.
I love that it seems like everybody's starting to try to work together, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah.
I think the more we work together, the more the community comes together, the easier it's going to be to identify talents, like Inked, that you saying was, largely ignored for a while.
A whole year.
Yeah. So, the more we work together and the more we do things like this and spotlight builders and give them places to speak up and speak out and give them the tools that they need to build, their businesses and their own little communities, I think the better of an ecosystem that we start to create. Dude,
I've loved your energy this entire time. It's been such a positive into building into the nitty gritty and then how we can positively push forward as communities. And thanks for giving back to Arizona, by the way. I know you're not from here, so that means a lot to us. Because I know, for example, my CEO, he is from here, and he's building here because he loves it here. Lee, you said, had a homecoming, kind of like, look, Papa's home type of moment. Same with me. I just, I could have chosen at the end of this other job I had to go to SF, work at a VC fund or NYC. And I was talking to, funnily enough, the same general partner who invested into you guys. And we were just kind of workshopping through things. And he's like, well, you kind of have a choice, man. Do you want to help Arizona out? You could just kind of start a media company, help it out, and run things there. Or just, come be out here doing different things. And I decided to stay because I really like Arizona. But when people come from the outside and they help, that means a lot to me personally. So thanks for helping out. Like, you don't need to, and you are. So appreciate it.
I've been here for 10 years, so...
You're basically from here.
Yeah. I mean, when I first started coming to Arizona, there are parking lots in downtown Phoenix that now have skyscrapers.
Isn't that crazy?
And it's the wildest thing to me. There are cow farms out in Gilbert that are now entire housing complexes and apartments. So I kind of feel like a little bit of almost like an Arizona native.
No, I would say you are, by the way. I remember that when I got married in 2018, my wife and I were living out in Tempe near ASU. Yeah. It was all flat. And if you go now, it's you see it. It's just tall buildings everywhere. But thanks so much for your time, man. Like, I know we're just kind of coming up on it. But before we do close out, are there any last thoughts, concerns, comments you'd like to share with anyone watching?
So one other community that I love and I want to highlight right now too. So he's another Arizona founder. So his name's Anthony Ronga. He runs the community called Mighty Founders. And I love it because it's just like this. We have Q&A sessions almost like every Thursday, and he brings on a different person, and it's just about founders helping founders.
Let's go.
And I love that energy. And so his community, like, he is based here, but it's kind of open to anyone and anywhere. Yep. But it's that same mentality. It's like, let's bring some people together. Let's have someone talk about something cool, an experience that they had in a way that's going to be helpful and beneficial to some other founders. And then he also is a fantastic storyteller. So early on, he helped me with a couple of my pitch decks, and,
Nice.
and he's really fantastic at that. So if there's anyone out there who needs help with that kind of thing, he's really really great at it. But I just again love the community aspect of it all. Like just getting onto a Zoom call, like hearing about some person's experiences, how they built their company, all that kind of stuff. Like I just love learning from other people, and so it's been another really great community to get plugged into, and I want to see more of that here in Phoenix.
Yeah. I always like to say that, again, our tagline at Silicon Oasis, I am a broken record. Unite and spotlight. So if you know of anyone, please get them in touch with us. We'll have them sit in that chair. But we always like to say that when one of us wins, we all win. I truly believe that. Because hopefully we just keep the flywheel going. They give back to Arizona too. We learn not just money, but the lessons. And I love that you pointed that out. The lessons of this is what went wrong. These are the 99 things that went wrong. This is the one thing you should be doing right, because that will literally save founders years of time, years upon years, months, money. So hopefully, when we spotlight these people, get them out there sharing their lessons, we can just help everyone save time and then turn Arizona into this mega tech ecosystem. Yeah.
I think we're getting there. I think we're at this really unique inflection point. There seems to be a lot of energy and a lot of interest in people helping other people, and building some really cool companies here. And I'm really excited and passionate about that, especially on the tech side.
Let's go. Yeah, same, man. As you can tell, we love it so much. Any other last words, last communities you kind of wanted to shout out, Ryan, or?
Silicon Oasis. I love being a part of that too. We got poker nights. So I'm excited to keep getting my butt kicked there. I don't think I've won once yet.
I won one, not the entire night, but like one round, and then I just felt way too confident after that, and then I just crashed out every time. So yeah, if you guys haven't heard of us, Silicon Oasis, we try to do unique events specifically tailored to people in tech, so investors, founders, operators in tech. I don't know if you saw, but we had donut boats sponsored by Plug and Play. We have a pickle night coming up.
Yeah, I'm there.
Yeah. 35 people. I think it's already booked out, so sorry. But sometimes people drop because, founder life. We try to make unique events. It's a very give-first community, so we just want Arizona to win. Thank you for shouting us out as well. You're one of our ambassadors, so we appreciate that.
Yeah, I guess that, my final word, no matter who you are, I think the most important thing is just take care of yourself.
Yeah.
So this is the thing that Sean and I were kind of trying to teach our own employees, at Ruck the other day. It's like your mental health, your health in general is such a crucial factor on how you show up to everything. Yeah. And so the better you can take care of yourself, the better you can show up for your community. And that's going to be number one always. And so I think that's a lesson that, everyone needs to be reminded about from time to time, especially founders.
Yeah. No, yeah. Thanks for sharing. I mean, my family went through some health stuff with an older brother I had, but I like to think I have that mindset too, where it's, look, if you can wake up, you can move fine, and you're healthy, dude, you're richer than 99% of the world out there. So if you're not feeling that way, then get checked, right? Like, seriously.
And eat well, exercise, and just take care of yourself, because then you can actually go and build the company that you want to build.
Thanks so much for making that last parting message, because that brought me down to earth. So I appreciate that, Ryan. Well, is that all the last shout outs? Awesome, man. Yeah. Dude, thank you so much for coming on. Super appreciate your time.
Oh, thank you. No, this is fun. Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks so much, everyone. We'll see you next time on the Silicon Oasis Spotlight. We're good.